Hey y'all, welcome to Pratt Made That. In today's video, we're making this modern coffee table. Let's get to it.
I start by using some of this recycled lumber that I cut to size and then ripped it at the table saw before throwing it through the planer. Normally I'd use my joiner to get the first flat edge, but I've been having some trouble, so I'm just using my planer sled to start. After everything's planed, I lay out the boards before jointing the edges on the table saw.
So, now that I have all the boards planed down flat on two sides, it's time to do the edge joint. So, I'm going to use my table saw to do the edge jointing. And I am going to be using the in-out method. So, the in-out method is you take two pieces of wood, you mark them with an I and an O. So what that means is when I push this piece of wood, when I'm cutting this edge, this face will be in or down on the table saw. Versus when I cut this edge, which has an O, it'll be facing out or up when I'm cutting it. And when I do that, the joint will look like this. It'll be nice and perfect. So the in-out method helps to take out any inconsistency in the angle of the blade. So as I'm ripping these boards, before I start, I'm taking my straight edge and checking to see if either of these edges are completely flat. Because I did do a little bit of joining when the pieces were really rough. So a couple of them do have a nice flat edge. But if they don't, what I'm using is my 4-foot level with a little cleat that I stuck on the end to help push it through and give it one straight edge before flipping it over and cutting the other side.
With everything jointed, I'm now marking out locations for dowels. Using dowels will help align the top and will reduce the amount of sanding I have to do later to get the top flat. Then after cutting some 3/8 inch dowels, I start the glue up. And I'll let that sit overnight and start working on the legs. After cutting to size and ripping the legs on the table saw, I used a 1/2 inch round over bit, which I forgot to record, to get the edge profile. Now I'm just using a sander to refine them. It's day 2, so now it's time to take the top out of the clamps and cut the circle using my router. After cutting out the circle, I did put a chamfer on the bottom and then went ahead and started sanding. Now back to the legs. The legs did take a little bit of trial and error, but once I figured it out, it was just a matter of marking the hole locations and drilling them out. finishing, because this is pine, I'm using some pre-stain wood conditioner to prevent some of the blotchiness that stain can cause. I am going to use the pre-stain on the top and bottom of the table so that the entire surface is exposed to the same moisture content and doesn't cause the top to want to bow overnight. After letting that sit, I go back and sand some of the raised grain. I am using some Minwax Ipswich Pine Wood Stain, and I am going to be applying 3 coats of that. Then after the stain is dried, I'm going to use some polyurethane and apply 3 coats, sanding in between with 220 grit sandpaper. For the legs, I'm simply using some Rust-Oleum white spray paint. The first coat goes on really light to help raise the grain. Then I go back, sand with 220 to smooth everything out, and then apply 2 more coats of white. And to finish it off, I'm using some 0000 steel wool and some soapy water to take down any dust nubs or imperfections in the top. And then I'm looking from an angle to see if there's any areas that are still dull or extra shiny. I want to make sure the top has the same consistency. And finally, we'll attach the legs to the top and we are done.
Well, y'all, that's a wrap on the modern coffee table. Hope y'all enjoyed the video, and if you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Also, subscribe to the channel and share. I'm trying to release a video every couple weeks. Really just depends on what's going on and what I'm building. Also, please be sure to follow me on Instagram at PrattMadeThat, and you can stay up to date with some of these projects as I'm building them. So again, hope y'all enjoyed the video and hope to see you on the next one. Bye for now.